I've been doing memetics for some time. What happened? Okay. Oh, it's recording.
I mean, it's we're good. You were saying.
No, I was just saying I've been doing memetics for some time. Where I was just like, I look back and then I was like, maybe I wouldn't have chosen that exact artifact to be the thing, but like that knowledge of this moment, we need a vibe shift. It has to happen. It's got to be repeatable. It's got to be medically strong. I wasn't doing that consciously. I was a dumb kid, but like looking back and I was like, respect. That is where you would put the ritual.
And that actually is a somewhat good way to get into this conversation by accident, coming in sideways by accident. But at any rate, hello, anybody who's watching this out in the internet. I'm Riley Bruce. I am a content creator, photographer, human being based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I'm here today to talk to Wendell Britt, who is the creator of Mastering the Game of Allyship, which is a system that he has created to help folks work through. Well, actually, I'm not going to do it. He's going to tell us what it is. Okay. So, first thing is, Wendell, who are you?
Who?
Yes.
I'm just going to punish anyone for that question, especially when making content. I am a newly minted resident of Seattle. I am someone who enjoys role-playing games. I studied Chinese. I guess I applied philosophy is kind of a deal that I do. I'm a meddling kid. I'm a helper. I help people. Actually, this is accidentally. Look at this. My boy, skillful helper. Gerard Egan, he's the guy. I might talk about him later. I'm a helper, a meddling kid. I like to help people through fun and play. I'm a business owner. I'm a writer. I make podcasts. I make edutainment. One of my Twitter handles is, or Twitter bios is like Miss Frizzle's ex-boyfriend. Like that's kind of the vibe.
Yeah, but, no, that's pretty on the nose.
Right? Yeah. So I feel like my identity is so much inside of being the creator of Mastering the Game of Allyship, Mastering the Game of Life, creating psychospiritual tools to help people like self-actualize without abusing themselves. I've had a very strange career. Basically, like my vocation is in customer service, user experience, but very specifically like ground floor, like looking at people in crisis and being like, "What's up? How you doing? Are you okay?" That's been like the common thread through like working at the Apple Store and then Airbnb and then an alumni engagement at my college and then doing like one-man human resource fungineer team at an animation studio in Connecticut. And yeah, the through lines have been personal development role-playing games. I like that's I'm gonna leave it there. I don't need to say.
That probably that's a good place to start. And for again anybody who is watching this, we met before this and we intentionally decided that this was going to be garbage. And by that I mean you're looking at I am in my brother's basement. You are going to hear dogs upstairs, but I am here because my brother just had a baby, and we still wanted to get this done because there's very specific timelines involved that we will get to later in this conversation.
Also, Riley has very high standards, and so we're working on making a lot of bad art so that he can make the good art easily. It'll be great.
No, this is the good art. It's not the good art.
Well, okay. I do.
If you want to see the good art, we'll get to where you can see that later. But right now, we want to focus back.
This one's important. So, Mastering the Game of Allyship system. I'm not going to go too into. I'm going to let Riley drive it, but this is a big one that I want to make sure we focus on. I have a great passion for helping people become effective allies, not good allies. In the same way that there's a thing I think called effective art, and there's something called good art. And I don't think that good art and good allies don't exist. I just don't think they do much of anything. And I have even more petty parts of me that believe that they cause more problems than they solve. Like effectiveness a lot more. Because you can track effectiveness. You can go, hey, before this art happened, the world was this way. After the art happened, now it's this way. Before the allyship happened, the world was this way. After it, it was this way. Goodness moves. It's chimeric. It does all this stuff. And I haven't found anyone, when they say, I want to do a good job, be like, tell me about it. What the fuck is that? And they go, oh, God. I don't hate myself when I look at it. I'm like, that's an inside job, my dude. I don't know if you're going to describe something outside of reality that you're going to be able to pinpoint to the good. That's I do think my philosopher jumping out being like, hold on for a second.
So now I'm going to interrupt. Let's go back to basics. You're using lots of words that have different meanings. Yeah, no, I'm a hand talker, especially when doing this kind of thing. I'm nope, that's not happening. It's happening. But what, you've created this system called Mastering the Game of Allyship. But before, you've talked about role-playing games. You've talked about making it fun, making people not basically hate themselves as they're doing these things. But back to core principles. The last word, ally.
Yes.
What does that mean to you in the context of this thing that you have created? Yeah. Because we need to define that for folks first before we can start talking about how you help folks become better at it.
I'm going to tell a story instead. So the year was May 2020, and I had just finished my first launch of my Mastering the Game of Life system. And feeling pretty good. I was living in Wichita, Kansas. I was like, hey, maybe I can do this business thing. Maybe I've got some skill. I don't fucking know. And then George Floyd gets murdered. Everyone starts losing their shit. Now, I had previously, in a previous life, been a sort of black nerd, writes about race stuff to help people understand the nature of what's going on with like my experience. I'm doing my slam poetry dance because it kind of felt like that. So I was over it. Like I pretty much made a pretty firm stance in my life of like, I'm not going to let white people doing shenanigans surprise me. That's on me at this point. Like it's been the pretty much solid constant thing in my life. Like for me to like get re-surprised by this, like that's wild. So I did that, went about my business. Turns out everyone else had not gotten the memo and everyone was losing their mind, which is fine. People do that. I was just going to kind of write it out. I was annoyed that I couldn't be on Twitter or on Instagram because of black squares and shit. And I was like, okay, that's annoying. But it's when the phones started ringing, when people started calling me, being like, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm sitting about as pretty as I ever have been. Are you okay? Why are you talking? This was after also an era of my life where like a lot of friends didn't stay in touch when I left Portland and went to Connecticut. Like I had to do a lot of energy to keep people. So to have them all like roll up, I'm like, I'm the same as I was when I was in Connecticut. People didn't even know where I was. But they were like, oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Because for a number of people, I'm at least the one black friend they had that feels safe enough to talk to. And so when bad stuff happens to black people, it is happening to their black friend. And so then they got to talk to. I'm like, that's annoying and weird, but okay, whatever. I guess that kind of makes sense. But I had a little crumb of emotion. I describe it very specifically. It was like a rock in my shoe. And I'd, at this point in my practice, been like, hey, even if I can bear it, it's still good to videotape it, figure it out, see what's going on in that. I went to that little crumb, that little blockage of emotion. I pulled it out, and it was anger. I was like, oh, I'm angry. Fascinating. What's this anger about? And I'm sitting here, having just created a process called Mastering the Game of Life that helps people do anything that they want by creating a game, making it playful. Take any goal, put it in Master the Game of Life, and it's going to get you somewhere. And usually a more fun way than you were going to do it before. And I've got everyone running around trying to be a good ally to me by doing something that is pissing me the fuck off. And I'm like, that's great. Don't love that.
I love that for me.
It was like in SpongeBob where Patrick is like, what if we just move Bikini Bottom over here and move it here? And I was like, well, I've already solved the be good at stuff problem. what if I just took all the tools for mastering the game of life, called it allyship, and just see what was going to happen? Now, this is one of the few and almost certainly going to be dozens of examples of when pettiness gets away from me, when keeping it real goes wrong, or goes right in this case. I was convinced that I was going to put this actual course out here that was actually going to help people, and no one was going to show up like they hadn't been doing for my business. Like, I was successful, but I wasn't as successful as like thought I should be for like, hey, you guys hate doing stuff and you want to have like a fun time doing it and you want it to be, I did it. You good? No? You like misery? That's me being sassy, but they do. That's just, I believe it now. I've come to peace with it. They love it. Try to take someone's misery away from them. They're not going to let you. So I was just like, they're not going to show up. I'm going to maybe get like my 8 friends that usually show up to stuff. We'll have a nice little book club. I'll be able to demo my Master of the Game of Life stuff. It'll be great. I'll do my business. Or, even better, no one will show up and I'll know everyone's full of shit and it'll be amazing. I was very petty. Wrong. Like 150 people showed up. I was like, oh no, I am not rated even a little bit to do this. And so then I made the Master of the Game of Allyship course. Now the question on the table was, what is allyship? In the beginning, I did not define it. Like, everyone knows, whatever that thing is that lives inside people that makes them freak out, that's what this course is designed to deal with. And it can take as many of those languages as possible. And that first course, I didn't define it. I thought I was so slick because I didn't need to. They know. They're like, I want to be a good ally. It's ringing in their heads. The process helps them take that concept, look at it, dialogue with it, interface with it, explore it, and then do whatever the hell that little lesion in consciousness makes them want to do. Now, to what I imagine your point is, that was fun for a while until I had to start writing the stupid book. And I was like, well, you need to have some working definition. I'm just like, I don't want to. I don't have one. I don't identify as a good ally or even that effective an ally. That's not true. I've gotten a lot more effective. But I play a game called Allyship. I don't identify as it. So that's like one of the first things, is that an ally is a role. It's a role that you take on. It's a little bad. I'm like, I'm an ally.
So it's like a class.
What?
So it's like a class.
Yeah, it's like
instead of a bard, you're an ally.
D class. Like, this is my course is a class, but also this is like a class. I've been playing Final Fantasy V, which was the first time they introduced the job system in the Final Fantasy series, and that's been sort of connected to like, oh yes, I'm an ally, I'm a fighter, I'm a monk, I'm a whatever. And it's usually pointed at something. So what everyone's freaking out is that they've got all these crazy badges that they're juggling, and I'm like, I'm certain there's probably some correlates between the meta skills that you're doing. Like, God, I'm allied to women. Okay, shit, I'm allied to queer people. Fuck, I'm allied to queer women. Should I have 2 badges? Do I put the 2 badges next to each other? Do I have to make a whole new 3rd badge? Okay, wait, oh shit, now I gotta... And everyone's running around. I'm like, that game sucks. It looks bad. Everyone's stressed out trying to take their badges on or off. And meanwhile, everyone's just sitting here being like, I'm sad. It sucks. Are you gonna figure out your badge thing so you can help me? But I did define it. It's in the book. I've got a few definitions, a few working metaphors, but for me, allyship is the ability to take well-being that you got and give it to someone else.
That
produces some problems. What happens if you don't have well-being inside of yourself? You're probably going to do a bunch of insane shit to not help anyone at all.
Or to make things actively worse. But that's a different conversation for a different day.
So that's what we're going to do.
At any rate,
the transfer and increasing of the well-being for someone else. Maybe if you're feeling nasty, a group of someone else's. Maybe if you're really dope, because you kind of have to do it for yourself, maybe it's for yourself. Maybe it's for yourself first. I think it actually should be for yourself first. If you can't give what you don't have, you got to have some of the stuff to give.
You know, I think what I keep coming back to right now is 2 things. 1, you can't pour from an empty cup. And 2, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love anybody else?
What's it? Golden rule breaks, and it's like, love your neighbor as yourself. It's like, well, I fucking hate myself, so let's fucking go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's worked out really well for the entirety of human existence. But so that's the working definition that we're starting with. So that's great. It sounds like there's a book that you have written or that is being written that defines this for folks who want to try and consume that, or try and run this on themselves, basically become the GM for allyship of their own life.
Game master of allyship for their own life. Yes, you're getting it. Great part comes in.
Oh, really? But so the game itself, and I know that we've played through some of the, basically, there are games that you have that are part of the meta game, that you are now working into the book. Is there a way for folks to approach this without, a lot of people don't like to read anymore, for better or for worse. They like to be read to, or they like to watch videos, listen to, chuckle fucks talk to each other over the internet. Yeah. But if somebody wanted to try and, what is the lowest barrier to entry into understanding this system better?
Ooh, okay. The lowest barrier of entry, I'll say it as sort of like a little formula. You just hear it right now. Honestly, in my particular opinion, it's gonna seem insane. Allyship ain't that hard. We all are playing games. The game does not inherently have to be fun. My job is to help people make fun and easy games, but everyone's always playing games. James P. Carson, his book, Finite Infinite Games, highly recommend. Also, Jane McGonigal's Reality is Broken and Super Better, as well as Yu Kai Child's Octalysis Framework. If you just want to know how to gamify stuff, just take this definition of allyship, transferable being, go read those fucking books, and you should be able to figure it out on your own. Now, you probably won't, because you will not have developed a game that will help you learn that game, because you're going to be reading those books to learn how to care about games. And so I think you are highlighting that specific problem. So here's the simplest form of the game right now. Write down 10 people you know, preferably people you like. Go talk to them about their problems. What the fuck's wrong with your life right now? Go fail at solving them for them. Get feedback. Keep doing that till the problems are solved. You can spend your entire life playing that game. Now, people aren't going to play that game. Why? Well, I don't want to look stupid. I don't have the skill set to help those people. Those people actively do not want to be helped right now, because I had to go talk to them about their problems in the first place. There's all sorts of reasons why that's going to be unfun. So your job is to know what's fun for you and offer that to people. I call that the allyship superpower. Something you can do in 30 minutes, I can save someone 9 months of time. That's the sort of working definition, but that's not precise, but it is accurate. It's something that's highly leveraged. And it turns out the stuff that people find to be fun are those things. I love being a dungeon master. I love storytelling. I love being on camera. So it's I should probably teach people how to do dungeon master shit, because it made my life better. And so now they're going to do that. And suddenly the master game of allyship is born. If you can find that allyship superpower for yourself, do it at people you give a shit about, dope. The issue in the sort of good ally, bad ally, effective ally framework is that there's caring for and there's caring about. And right now, people care about a lot more than they have the capacity to care for. So when you're looking at, the entirety of the concept of Black people trying to help them, good on you. I'm not saying don't care about that topic, don't care about that state of being, but you can only actually care for actual people, which means you actually got to go meet them, which means you actually have to know them. So knowing that distinction tomorrow will make you a more effective ally. Stop caring about shit you can't care for. The end. Only care for shit that you can have fun caring for. And if it turns out that means that you're going to be doing a lot less care work, don't worry, you're going to do it a lot more effectively. It'll balance itself out because what you're doing over here is insane looking.
Yes. And that's where I know that there's a lot of sort of in the world, and this is where I'm going to put fellow white folks and previous versions of myself on blast. There is a lot of performative allyship. There is a lot of virtue signaling that happens in the world that is more focused on being perceived as helping rather than performing the help of anything.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned a couple things earlier that I want to dig just a little bit deeper on, right? So the first is how, obviously we've known each other for a very long time. We met in elementary school at band camp.
Middle school.
I mean, what's the difference? At any rate, you were not in middle school yet. I was in middle. I was the old one.
You were in middle school. I was in 7th grade.
Yeah.
8th grade going to high school.
Well, regardless, we've known each other for a while, so that makes it a little bit easier when we're talking about, okay, what's not going well in life? Where is there pain? How can we dig in on this stuff, right? And if you're, trying to open up a new door with a loved one, right? Trying to foster some vulnerability, right? Which is kind of what I'm hearing here, right? Like, because a lot of people, there's this coworker that I always like to talk about, where anytime anyone would ask him how things are going, his response would be unbelievable. And obviously that could be in any direction whatsoever. Like, it is unbelievably good, unbelievably bad, and he would just leave it at that. Like, that was his answer for everything.
I'm stealing. That's amazing. Sorry, I also hate small talk, so that's beautiful.
But so yeah, I mean, but like, how if you're a run-of-the-mill person who hasn't gotten to the point of digging deep, right? Like, we both have neurodivergence, which means that small talk is difficult. And
it's just odinous. Where other people find difficulty, I find something I want to punch.
So in this case, how can folks foster that next level of vulnerability while being helpful, while having fun doing it?
Yes. Okay. I don't know if this one's going to be fun off the jump, but it is incredibly OP, so I'm just going to give it to people. Tell me more is fantastic. It's the Grease principle. Tell me more, tell me more. It's as simple as that. Homie goes, how's your day? Unbelievable. Tell me more.
Tell me more about that. Yeah.
They'll go, no, tell me more about your resistance to telling me more about that. It loops all the way down. Now, here's the thing. You're going to feel like an asshole. This is what I mean by like the fun thing. This one's fun for me. I love it. You will encounter inner resistance as you're doing that digging because everyone knows tell me more is a compulsion. It is. It's not a question. Don't ask. That's one of the beautiful things. That's not a question. It is a demand, but it's a pro-social demand. Tell me more about that. Temba, his arms wide. You just keep doing that until someone goes, no, thank you. And you can still push a couple times past that, but the no thank you moment is dope. I cannot stress enough how helpful that is. If there are any therapists listening, they're probably like, he just gave the secret. I'm not a therapist. That is some of the most effective allyship that you can do because it's the meta skill that you're going to use on all of those things. Like, it's the starting point. It's not a digging move either. It's a receptivity move. It creates a vacuum. Tell me more. It's like, well, shit, now I'm an asshole if I don't tell them more. Maybe. Or you can have a spine and go, I don't feel comfortable telling you more. It's like, oh, that's what the unbelievable meant. Now I know.
Yeah.
But basically, conversational touch distance is basically what goes on. Small talk is usually, I'm creating distance. And it's like, well, you got to find a way to close that distance because the allyship happens here.
Yep. And I think the way that I would even add on top of that, right? Like to really that's helpful, right, to folks, but you shouldn't explicitly like just ask the follow-up, right? Like that's the way to everything that I just heard you say was that, right? Is it's ask the next question rather than trying to change the subject, or like if it starts to feel uncomfortable to you in a moment, like somebody's pouring something out to you, like clearly they needed to talk about it or they wanted to talk about it.
And sometimes being an ally to yourself, like I said, everyone's playing the allyship game. It's happening. Like there's ways in which like it's an invention of mine, but really it's a discovery. I'm like, it's happening. It just sucks. It's just bad. They are unskillful at the allyship game. So a lot of times small talk is allyship for people to themselves to not have to be vulnerable. To be an effective ally sometimes is to break some shit that people really want to keep not broken. And they're not going to give you an award for that. That's when people are doing the performative ally. I'm like, everyone's performing, but the thing that made me understand that is that like, oh, there's the performances where you get to take the bow and the applause happens and everything's great. And then there's whatever the hell those motherfuckers are doing on the side of the street bothering you. Just as much of a performance. Maybe you get tips, but like there's a different level. Like when the proscenium isn't so far away, you're just like, could you not perform this right in front of my face? It's just like, why am I bothering you? Do you have the meta skill of self-protection to stop this thing from happening? At the higher forms of allyship, this is theoretical, but it is important. Healthy systems take damage in the presence of unhealthy systems. People get that. They're like, yeah, that makes total sense. Flip side is also true. Unhealthy systems take damage in the presence of healthy systems. And if everyone is chasing comfort and ego strokes, they're not going to do the healthy thing that produces the uncomfortable response towards the unhealthy system because they want to get the applause. But it's the same. I look at people every day, I'm like, you're not going to like this. Put your mouth guard in. I'm about to do allyship. Unfortunately, you're the enemy. So as much as I'd like to beat this guy up because of it, actually it's you, so strap in. Are you willing to be seen as the bad guy to be the good guy?
So that's a rather unique sales pitch. Basically making the argument that what is going to happen is tearing of one's ego down in a moment to be able to reconstruct something that is healthier, something that is better.
Sometimes. I will say this is a very Wendell specific focus of it. In practicing my own allyship, I came to these levels, and at the higher level, it is that. The basic level is still just the tell me more. The tell me more is a disruption. Instead of performing the answer that comes on the other side of, oh, unbelievable, or it's been a great day, or fine, you get to go tell me more. And in disrupting that pattern, now you tell a story. And at the end of any good story is going to be some kind of transformation.
And that's really the reason that I brought that up, right? Is because it's about narrative, right? Everything in life, for better or for worse,
at least in human life,
sure, has a narrative associated with it. I asked you, what does allyship mean to you? And the first thing you do is tell a 5-minute long story. And then we get to, this is what it means. Because the context is important. And so that's where, when we're talking about the game, is there, yes, we're talking about asking the questions, we're digging in with people, with our friends, with our loved ones, in a way that feels open, right? Because that's also, I think, a core part of it for a lot of folks, where there is an expectation when questions are asked that, hey, the answer needs to be this particular way, or else we're going to have a problem, or else like whatever. It's like, that's not a recipe for vulnerability. That's a recipe for more performance.
Yes.
So how do you, as someone who does this professionally, recommend that folks approach being the ally who is safe to not be performative with?
This is where it gets tricky. I know you're setting me up to say a really lovely thing, and I'd love to give it to you. Actually, I'm going to just do it right now. This is me doing immediacy. I hear that you're setting up a thing called How Can People Be Like Safe Allies? And that's beautiful. I'd love to give people the opportunity to be safe allies. I think it'd be a fantastic thing. Safe allyship? That'd be so amazing. Nothing better in the world than a safe ally, except I think it's made up. I don't think we should be seeking safety in allyship in the same way that I don't seek safety when I play Call of Duty. If you're talking games, like, you don't go into the game mode to be safe. The game mode precludes its own safety. But the game, it's chess. You have to be alive and breathing to play chess. And when you play chess, you are now playing a pitched warfare battle. The context itself of play includes survival. And so it becomes slightly insane to do survival-based things inside the play mode. So even by just shifting the thought to, I am not an ally, I am a player of the game of allyship, it seems small, it seems like a linguistic quibble, but like that is what produces the meaningful safety. Every time you can remind yourself you're in play, you're not dying, you've got enough well-being, and you're on the way to getting some more of it. You're going to have a good time. Even if you point it at a hard, impossible thing. Because the human game of conversation is inherently unsafe, it is sometimes an issue to say, like, how can we make conversations more safe? Now, here's the thing. You fucking can. You can. But
unbelievable.
You have to take that in first, is that at the higher level of the game, you're not seeking safety. Like, I've been working with ChatGPT to come up with these things. Damn robots keep trying to come back and be like, yes, allyship is all about producing equity and inclusion and all this stuff, and that's great. And I'm like, no, it's for the well-being. Those things are there for the well-being. If you do those things and create non-well-being situations, you have failed and built a very weird building. And the robots go, yeah, you're right. I'm like, you are being trained by this society. So, like, this is the deep problem. But here's what you can do. There's a few concepts. So the first one, tell me more. That is an openness move. Like, even in the sort of Dharmakian Timba his arms wide, it is a posture that says, hey, I am open for whatever you got. And then people can do it. And the nice self-allyship move, if you get full and you're at the edge of you being able to listen effectively, is Timba at rest. I am done. I am full. Thank you for sharing. Usually an appreciation is a nice close. Like, yeah, thanks for telling me that, man. You're done. That's a whole allyship game loop. You opened, stuff came in, you closed it, and stuff that might not have been able to be spilled. If you start getting the intuition that maybe someone is, I like to call it, reading brochures, you can do an interruption move. If you see someone in the middle of telling a story about where their life is terrible, but they aren't in the main character position, you get the opportunity to be like, hey, how would you like this to go? What's getting in the way of you getting to the next spot? Who's the villain, truly? And what is their weak points? You get to start asking some pretty basic game questions. And if they're not willing to answer that, great. That's an amazing signal that this person's game is reading brochures. Their person's game is telling people about how terrible everything is, not they are taking strides to do something about it. Because the second that you do that, you can hit them again with a, now tell me more. You can watch, rinse, repeat. Tell me more, and what's the next step? Tell me more. What's the next step till the cats come home? But there's another one that does signal safety. If you want to do a performance thing, you can signal safety. I learned this one at T-Mobile. Well, place made me mad. Something that I already did, I didn't have language for. Apple didn't even teach me this, which made Apple's usually like gold star in customer service. If anyone's put on the scoreboard, T-Mobile gave me this one. They called it a signature response. I renamed it to... I didn't rename it. It actually had an old name that I found out later called immediate concern response. Immediate concern response is broken down very simply. I hear you. I relate to you. Let's partner together. And between that, that's the whole allyship cycle, whatever you want to call it. I hear that your weekend was unbelievable for the reasons that I elicited via my Tell Me More. I relate to that because, or I'll agree with you, my dude. I don't relate to that but I'm going to hold this intention of partnering with you or allying with you to make this better, to zhuzh up this well-being. That's it. That's a full loop. You get to mark EXP. That's a fantastic thing that you can do.
And what can EXP look like?
So EXP is experience points. This is one of the meta skills in the Mastering the Game of Systems, because since people aren't going to give you your experience points anymore, you have to do it yourself. Straight up, like, you have to recognize in real time, like, what's going on. I was working on the book yesterday, and I was like, I think I'm done for today. I'm tired, but I don't feel good about it. And a sweetie mine was just like, oh, well, you need to celebrate. And I was like, oh, yeah. And I started playing the Final Fantasy V victory thing. It's the ability, it's the mindfulness game of remembering every time that you close a loop to mark EXP for yourself, so that your brain, in chasing more of that feeling, has you do the pro-social thing. The key is that you cannot ask people to give that to you. You can't ask people to give that to you unless you have co-created a game where someone's job it is to do that. In the Mastering the Game of Life system, Mastering the Game of Allyship system, as the Dungeon Master, I can do that. But the ultimate goal is for you to be the Dungeon Master. You start from player. Well, really, you start from character to player to master. And once you're at the master level, you can give experience points to yourself. You can give experience points to other people in the form of appreciation. Like, hey, really love that thing you did over there. That was fantastic. Oh my God, I did that thing. That's fantastic. I should do more of that thing. Great. I'm actually anti the no more performative allyship. I'm like, perform. Just do a good show. Just do a show once in a while. It can be fake. You don't need to be good. I can't tell the difference between someone performing effective allyship and someone who is an effective ally. They might be like, this is all a scheme for me to do. I'm like, I don't know. I will not be able to know if you're actually balling. On the flip side...
Oh, no. You've made life better for people for your own purposes. This is the worst.
Get paid to do dope things. One of the things I tell people is like, hey, if you really want to be an effective ally, get paid for it. I'm not saying you're gonna do it, but like, that's the Hail Mary move. That's the one throw, get points move. You don't want to do that? Okay, great. You're volunteering now. Don't volunteer doing something you don't like to do that you're not an expert at. That's crazy. Why would you do that? That's going to school with no school and no grades, with the highest stakes to accomplish nothing.
So, what I'm hearing is that while, the core of giving yourself experience points should be to internalize positive change over time, right? The way that can be externalized or made manifest might just be through giving yourself a little treat. It could be through singing a song. It could be through, like, literally just making a checklist. And some people get that awesome little jolt from checking it off the list. It could be through external accountability of, a tool like a to-do list app or whatever, right? But
building of rewards becomes a very important skill. And knowing, like, what is the thing that, like, is motivating for you is really great. I like getting paid. I like treats, and this is really, like, messed up, but I do like attention and affection from, like, women. And I have people in my life who I've got games built where they're like, if you do this thing well, you'll get some attention. I was like, okay. And I've been doing it, and everything's really great. Like, if it works, it works. And being able to, like, videotape all these sort of weird rules that will intrude, that will stop you from getting the things that motivate you. Because that's the enemy of the game of allyship. There's a part of you that wants to stop yourself from rewarding yourself. It's like, well, you're going to need to get rewarded by encountering that part of you who doesn't want you to reward yourself to move forward.
So, stop kicking your own ass.
Unless, and here's the real thing, we want to go here, we're here, brother. There's some kinky bastards out there. I have reason to believe that all that ass kicking that people are doing to themselves is the reward.
Yeah, not no.
I'm like, I'm not taking that away from nobody. I'll be like, hey, is this your reward? If so, yeah, go to town. I need to see more bruises, man.
Go have fun. But, yeah, there are some folks...
There just is a carrying capacity for self-abuse. You will eventually lose all your teeth, or the energy that you're spending healing from your self-inflicted wounds is going to stop you from doing the thing. But here's the thing: if you found out like your carrying capacity, get the shit beat out of you. Fight clubs exist. I'm not here to judge what motivates you, but just point you to like, hey, systemize that shit. Make a game out of it.
Well, for legal reasons, I think we need to make clear that what we are not doing is telling anybody to actually start a fight club. Because, yes,
but
that
for charity. It's joke. Here's what things you shouldn't do. You shouldn't start a fight club. You shouldn't start an OnlyFans so that you can give money to the Humane Society. You absolutely should not gamble and then give all of your winnings to Audubon Society. And 100% under no circumstances should you do Twitch streaming, playing Call of Duty to raise awareness for Lou Gehrig's. Those are all insane things to do that you absolutely should not do.
Stares sideways at the entire concept of extra life. But you absolutely should not do any of those things, especially not if they make you happy. So we're about 40 minutes into this conversation, and we've talked through a little bit of what problem this solves for people. Hopefully it helps you move to a not only more effective place of being able to help other people, but a place that actually is fun and makes you happy, you as a human being. That is the core value that is being delivered through this system.
Yes, and even satisfaction. Some people don't like happiness. Turns out I learned through this process that I like being happy. Fun and happiness aren't quite the same thing. What I learned is what makes me happy is triumph. Triumph and happiness are actually two different core drives. I get happy when I get triumph. I feel triumphant when I get happy. Having disambiguated them, I'm like, oh, triumph, which is the satisfaction form of anger, is my motivating drive. I like winning. It's very difficult to win when I'm playing role-playing games, but I love it. Some people it's meaning. Some people it's just like the sort of satisfaction state of sadness, beauty, truth, meaning, purpose, connectedness. That's their fun. Great. Get some more of that if you want. I don't care. Make a game that produces that if you find it lacking in your life. We were talking earlier, some people like peace. Peace is a tricky one because peace has the, come on.
Some people like marimbas to go off in the middle of their recording.
The damn robots. And I don't know where my cursor goes to. Where does it think my alternate screen is?
It's either up or
up,
sideways.
Down. I literally went the entire way around to find the thing. That's funny. Let's hit that do not disturb.
Go! Okay.
But so straight up, like there are core drives that are separate that aren't just all happiness, but they all need to be satisfying. Games need to have satisfying ends. Peace, excitement, meaning, poignance, happiness, triumph, all of those are allowed. You can mix them together. Usually someone will have some deficiency. I'd be like, it's probably a good idea to make a game of allyship that helps you get that thing that you're deficient in so that you can then help people with that thing. It just seems efficient to me. But that's a big thing to call it, is that it's not always happy. Some people have very big allergies to being happy helping. They're like, no, my mom or dad was sad helping and caring for me, and so that's the only map that I have to do the thing. And I'm like, okay, great. Whatever that good feeling of doing that is, which for those people usually is a sort of sadness, meaning, purpose. Like, well, I did what my family did, and so now I'm great. Whatever that is, I don't care. Just do more of it.
Meaning, purpose. Yes. Where can folks, like typically with any game, there's the opportunity of playtesting or of like interacting with it in a way that is a little bit directed or, has some oversight. Is there a way that folks can do that?
So it is still currently, as it stands, a self-directed game. There's a future, it's not too far off, where there is a curated play space that I've sort of made. It was something that came up. I used to do the Allyship dojo where I'd sit down, teach people how to play the game, be like, all right, go play the game. And they immediately proceed to forget how to play the game because they could only play the game when I was there because I was the dungeon master. So then I was like, yeah, but I can't be with you in every moment of life. So I can help you sort of get better, help you be more effective. And a lot of my one-on-one clients, that's exactly what happens. I'm like, okay, I'm going to train you to be the dungeon master so you can have the eyeballs so you can do the thing. But of late, I've been like, well, there's a lot of opportunities to actually like work with organizations, work with sets of people to actually create an ecosystem that allows folk to, I want to go practice my skills in the game of allyship. I go into the allyship dojo incubator. I don't have a name for it. Disney World, but make it allyship. But you walk through the gates and there are quest logs and there are ways to practice like your skills and there's content and there's all this stuff and you can play through all that stuff. Doesn't exist yet. I'm a theater of the mind boy when it comes to D&D, and basically what is being emerged is that like there does need to be some sort of product that can have this be as a space. Now, in between, we're doing events. I'm going to go around and talk to people and have them play versions of the game, usually the internal versions, called the leveling up. Here's like your skills, here's your understanding, here's your blockers, here's your superpower. The mastering the game of allyship system. It's got 4 parts to it. It's waking up, cleaning up, growing up, and showing up. Waking up is there's a game for waking up, there's a game for cleaning up. The growing up is the leveling system where you can start seeing what does allyship look like at these very discrete levels. And then showing up is actually going to a place and helping a person. And a well-designed game has the show up part be a component of every other one, where it's like, okay, the second that you wake up, you should be doing something that is helpful. The second that you metabolize some shadow in yourself, that should immediately turn into like helping. As you move through these levels, you should be encountering people so that you're not doing all these other stages as procrastination from actually doing it. So we are starting to do events. I'm going to record these events so that people can actually see the thing, because as much as I'd like to help people one-on-one, people can't afford me because I'm fucking tight. And it just doesn't scale particularly well. So we're going to try and, connect in all the major cities, at least I interact with: Minneapolis, Seattle, Bay Area, Portland. And hopefully over time, after doing those events, start inviting organizations in those cities to be like, hey, here's a set of people who have like a very specific set of skill sets, who are already, who actually know their allyship superpower and can sort of like engage. That's my dream. That's my goal. And we're starting that this next month in December, what was it, 14th, the weekend of the 14th. And Minneapolis. There's going to be one in Seattle at some time. Still working on the pre-production. I'm actually having to create my own allyship quest campaign to use my superpower to do the stuff. Technically, you're watching me in real time do that. Like, one of my superpowers is be on podcasts and talk to people about my shit. So I'm doing it to tell people about the shit. It's great. Yes, Seattle, Minneapolis, December 14th through 16th. Of some variety. Keep your eyes open. There's going to be like a website and everything. There's going to be tickets, and it'll be a whole hootenanny.
There is going to be a website.
He said menacingly.
Well, Wendell, thank you. Is there anything that you would like folks out in the ether, like, you get 10 words, which is going to be hard. What is the one thing that in 10 words or less you would like people to come away remembering from this conversation?
If you have to play, you can't play.
All right. I'm assuming that hinges on the word have to.
Yes.
Or I guess that's 2 words. Got it.
100%, yes. If you have to play, you can't play. If you have to be an ally, you can't play at being an ally, which means you can't get better at being an ally. Unless you're about to die. I don't want my allies to be almost dying. That's the crazy thing. No, I want the Helm's Deep. I want the Light of the Third Day, fresh for here, I'm fucking shit up. I don't want scraggly-ass Gollum being like, let's not destroy the ring, but I'm gonna make you think like we're gonna destroy it.
A lot of golems out there right now. Well, always, unfortunately. That's why the trope exists. But thank you very much for your time, sir. I don't know how to end this yet. But we did say it was going to be garbage, so...
I almost said spay and neuter your pets, because that's how I've ended every podcast that I've done since and I was like, that's funny and a nice throwback. But, like, yeah, no, it's your Starfleet signing off thing. Here's a gentler one. Final thoughts. That's kind of what you gave me. What's your final thought? What's alive for you, man behind the curtain?
There's no curtain. There's just sheetrock and ventilation.
Yeah, that's the curtain.
Oh, okay, got it. So my final thoughts are, if you liked this conversation and you have something that you would like to talk about with a wider audience, if there's something where you would like to be able to distill and discuss the value that you create in the world with either your allyship or just your product, reach out to me and find me or Wendell on the socials. So I'm at Riley the Bruce on most platforms, and Wendell is
at Wendell_Britt. Pretty much everywhere. And my email is Wendell@masteringallyship.com.
And I am me at RileyBruce.com. So, like I said at the top, I look forward to, I don't know if I said this at the top, but hopefully this was informative for everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Spay and neuter your pets.
Rude.